So today's lesson is first one this week. We're continuing working with points and lines like we were last week. Today's lesson is actually going to be a bit of a shorter one. I've got one skill that we're going to fit in, and it's called finding the perpendicular bisector of a line. So we have some line or some line segment, some bit of a line. And in this case, we've got the line AB. So when I talk about the line AB, that's that one. And we want to know about this thing here, which is the perpendicular bisector. Well, we know what perpendicular means. Perpendicular means it's at right angles. And bisect is another word. Well, bi is like bicycle, so it's cutting it into two bits. Bi is the two, sect is kind of like cutting it into two bits. So we want something that's at right angles that cuts this line between A and B into exactly two bits. So the middle of this line, I've actually already just faintly marked it here, and it's got to be at right angles. So that line there, this thing here, is the perpendicular bisector of AB, because it's exactly halfway between A and B, and it's exactly at right angles to that line AB. So today we're going to focus in on this skill of calculating the perpendicular bisector. We don't need any new maths, we're just using two things that we already know. Let's pick out what those two things are. Well, that point there is the midpoint of the line AB. So we've got the midpoint, which we've already learned. We learned that last lesson last week. And this line is perpendicular. So if we want to calculate the equation of a line, we need to know its gradient. Well, the perpendicular bit gives us the gradient of this line. If we can calculate the gradient of AB, the perpendicular gradient, remember that's the reciprocal, negative reciprocal, sorry. So we're able to find the gradient using this knowledge about perpendicular, and then we can use what we know about the midpoint to actually calculate the equation of this line here. So let's put all of that into practice. I'm actually going to do two examples, a slightly easier one, well, numbers are slightly easier in it, and a slightly harder one. So find the perpendicular bisector. So that phrase is coming in straight away there, of the line AB, where A is the point 4, 6, and B is the point 8, -6. So we've got two things to do. We're going to break this down. We've said we've got to find the midpoint, we've got to find the gradient of AB, and then find the perpendicular gradient, and then we finish all of this off. So those two key things build in, and then we can find our line equations. It's quite a big question, which is why I'm sticking to just this one skill today, rather than giving you too much to get your head around. So first thing we are going to do is midpoint of AB. Now it's helpful here to lay out all the different things that we are doing. So at the midpoint of AB, remember we draw our big brackets. Remember that was like the average, the mean average that is, of these. So 4 plus 8 over 2 is my mean of the x coordinates. My mean of the y coordinates is 6 plus -6 over 2. So that midpoint, 4 plus 8 is 12, divided by 2 is 6. 6 add -6 is 0, divide that by 2 is still 0. So my midpoint is 6, 0. Second thing I want is the gradient AB. Now my gradient of AB is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's -6 minus another 6 over 8 take away 4. which is equal to minus 12 over 4, which is the same as minus 3. Now, we will actually want the perpendicular gradient to that, so m perp, or m perpendicular with that little symbol, is the opposite sign to this one, so this one's negative, so our gradient over here is going to be positive. This is 3, so remember we want that reciprocal, which is 1/3. Okay, we can check that. 1/3 times minus 3 equals minus 1, which is a good check just to do in your head, just to make sure you've not made any mistakes as you've been going through. Now, we are going to calculate, so we've got those two key facts. So this is equation of the perp bisector. And we're going to do both methods. Remember, you only need to do one, whichever one you prefer. So we have y equals mx plus c. So y equals minus 3x plus c. Put our point in. Well, here our point is that midpoint of the line. That's the one we're using. So we're putting 0 in for y equals minus 3 times 6 plus c. So 0 equals minus 18 plus c. C equals 18. And I've only just got space to write this in. We've got y equals minus 3x plus 18. So that's our line equation at the bottom there. Let's do it by the other method. So y minus b equals mx minus a. And this time we've got y minus 0 equals minus 3 lots of x minus 6. Y take away 0, just y. Minus 3x plus 18. So in this case, because that's 0, this actually turned out to be the quicker method to use. But same answer in both cases. It doesn't matter which one you use, but there is our method for a perpendicular bisector. You've got to find that midpoint, you've got to find the gradient of the line, and then find your perpendicular gradient, and then using your midpoint and your perpendicular gradient, you're then writing down a line equation. So quite a bit to it, but worth working your way through, because if you can do all of these processes, we're really putting things together from the last couple of lessons. I'm going to do a second example for you, and then let you have a go for yourself. That's our only skill for today. So once you've kind of mastered this, that's you for today, once you've practiced some questions. So find the perpendicular bisector, so that's our key phrase, looking out for that. So we're finding our perpendicular bisector of the line CD, where C is the point 37, D is the point, and D is 11,1. So we're going to follow through those exact same steps. So first thing, midpoint of CD, and that's equal to, remember that's the mean of the x coordinates, so 3 plus 11 over 2, and the mean of the y coordinates, 7 plus 1 over 2. So 3 plus 11 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8, divided by 2 is 4. So there is our midpoint. So I actually kept the midpoint looking reasonably nice in these numbers. You could potentially get halves in here, but that is as nasty as it's going to get. We want the gradient, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Always good just to write down the formula, make sure you're getting that right, because then it's a matter of looking up here. So we've got 1 take away 7, and 11 take away 3. 1 take away 7 is minus 6. 11 take away 3 is 8. Simplify a little bit. So that's minus 3 over 4. That'll make our life easier over here because we've got that simplified form. So the perpendicular gradient, this is negative, so this is going to be positive. Remember, if you've got a fraction, the reciprocal is the same as turning that fraction upside down. So our new perpendicular gradient is 4/3. So we've got our two pieces of information now. Now we can do our line equation. As ever, I'll do it in both ways. So y equals mx plus c. We've got y equals 4/3 of x plus c. Putting our midpoint, so this is the point we're putting in, it's the 7, 4. We've got 4 equals 4/3 times 7 plus c. Now here's where the numbers are really not very pretty. We've got 4 equals 28/3 plus c. Adding 4 onto 28/3, well, easiest to write that as 12/3. Take away 28/3 equals c. And so c equals 12 take away 28 is minus 16/3. So our final line equation is y equals 4/3 x take away 16/3. We'll do that by the other method just so you can see it if you like that method. Although I take some shortcuts with fractions. So we've got y take away, now reminder, we're using the midpoint, which y coordinate is 4. 4/3 x minus 7. Now I'm going to take that shortcut again, which we took the other day. If you've got 3 on the bottom, we can times by 3. So we get 3y minus 12 equals 4 lots of x minus 7. 3y minus 12 equals 4x minus 28. So 3y equals 4x minus 28 plus 12 is minus 16. And you can see these two are the same line, just this one's divided through by the 3 and this one isn't. So same line equation, just depends which version you end up with. So hopefully those two examples give you enough to get started. Although please feel free to drop a question on the group or email me if this isn't quite clicking yet and you need another example just to help you get going. But yeah, that's your skill for today. See how you get on practicing through the set of questions that I've put up, and remember to do the little quiz at the end to give me a bit of feedback on how you get on.